Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Actually, our final episode of season 3.
Hard to believe, Carla, isn't it? Guys, this is episode number 60. We have 20 episodes in each season. And, from the bottom of our hearts, all we can do is thank you. Because you probably don't watch these things, but we watch analytics and numbers, and the growth is pretty crazy. We've went from a podcast of a couple people that own laundromats in Cincinnati to having 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 viewers.
I think we've had over 40,000 downloads now at this point.
Yeah, so we feel like
that's not even talking about the YouTube part. That's just for the podcast.
Yeah, we feel like we're just really getting momentum. Obviously, we get all your feedback and your kind words and messages and emails and stuff. First of all, thank you. We appreciate it. It just lets us know we're on the right track and we're making an impact, because that's why we do this. But anyways, for this episode number 60 of season 3, we have kind of a rock star, and it's a very unique episode. Very much nothing like any episode we've ever had. It's with Brian Harrington. He's a laundromat owner out in the Chicagoland area. But the cool thing about this is he's actually more of a construction expert than a laundromat expert, but he's definitely a laundromat expert too. He owns a laundromat, is in the process of doing 3 more of them, but he also has built 13 laundromats through his construction company for other people.
Yeah, he started in construction and then got into laundromats himself. Yeah. So he has a lot to share about construction, about getting into the industry, and about whether you want to partner with others or do it yourself, and some of the financing that goes along with that. So this is definitely an episode you won't want to miss. So stay tuned. We'll see you in just a bit. Okay, before we get started on today's episode, we do want to take a moment to remind you of a very cool opportunity that we just started on our website. If you haven't heard about it yet, it's the Laundromat Millionaire Community. It is a membership where you can gain access to everything that we have about laundromats. So products that we've created, forms you can download, all kinds of stuff that we use in our laundromat that you can use in yours. Even a searchable video library in case you're researching the industry or certain aspects of the industry.
Yeah, you get discounts. You get the ability to chat with me in a more intimate setting on very specific topics. You get distributor and product reviews from users in the community. It's a behind-the-scenes intimate community that I'm very involved in. We're very passionate about, and we'd love for you to check it out on our website. Go to laundromatmillionaire.com, click on the community tab, and see what it's all about.
So Brian, welcome to the show. We're so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I want to start out this episode by, I'm always talking, Brian, whether it's on social media or email marketing or whatever, I'm always talking to people about the value of networking. And I just kind of want to point out to people that the way not that we're best buds, but the way we've connected and gotten to know each other was we connected through LinkedIn and social media a little bit. Started kind of following each other, seeing some value in each other's posts and things. And then next thing you know, we're sending a few private messages here and there about whatever, this or that, hope to see you here. And then next thing you know, I got to talk with you and your wife for probably a good 20, 30 minutes at the CLA conference in Chicago. And so I just want to point out to people that I didn't know Brian. I don't really still know Brian. But how we connected is we're both intentional about that. And there's a ton of value in that for the industry as a whole. And those things compound, those relationships compound over time. And so I find it kind of interesting that that's how we got you on the show is it starts with this very small step of connecting through LinkedIn or whatever. And next thing you know, we meet each other in person. We have a great conversation in Chicago at the conference. And here you are on the show. And then I'm sure we'll see each other. We've seen each other at the Clean Show and things like that. But I think we crossed paths and didn't get to talk. If I remember right. But I just want to point out to our audience before we even jump into your story today, that's an example of something I've been trying to intentionally do since basically 2009. And I am pretty transparent and authentic about the idea that it's led to a significant portion of our success. And so I really am passionate about letting the industry know the value in that. And it doesn't have to be spending $5,000 to travel across the country and go to a conference, but it can be. And when you get there, the value associated with, even we were at the conference, we were both very busy talking to a lot of different people. And I know you and your wife kind of just went out of your way and kind of intentionally came up to me and caught me in the back of the room. And next thing you know, we had a fantastic conversation, and I'm sure we'll talk again even after this show.
Yeah.
So there's a tremendous amount of value for us in the industry as a whole, in us laundromat owners connecting, building authentic relationships and sharing information with each other. We can do it publicly like this. We can do it privately with private conversations or private messages or emails or whatever it looks like. But when Carla and I talk about, us collectively as an industry elevating the industry, we're really talking about laundromat owners connecting and building relationships. So just want to point out that's how this interview came to be.
It's kind of funny. I seen you on LinkedIn. It was kind of ironic. I'm building it would be my fourth laundromat, and but the first one I've owned myself.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? It looks like this guy kind of knows what he's doing. So I looked you up and I got with you on LinkedIn, like you said, and then just kind of followed your story. And you had that book come out. And I bought the audio because I drive a lot, so it was better for me to do that because I'm not I don't have a lot of time to read all the time.
Yeah.
Great story. It was a great background.
Thank you.
And kind of you and I come from kind of similar means.
We do.
Yeah, we really do. And it's like so when we did meet with you at the conference with my wife, we did have a wonderful conversation with you, and I learned a lot from just listening to what you guys bring to the table. I look at the podcast, I see everything on social media. Like you said, we're hooked up on Facebook and everything. So yeah, it's nice. It's a nice network group.
All right. So awesome. Brian, let's hear about your story. So where did you start off? Tell us a little bit about your background and what's led you into the laundromat industry.
Well, it's kind of unique. I grew up in Streamwood, Illinois. I've been out here in the northwest suburbs of Chicago all my life, basically, with the exception of my military time. But I met my wife in church. That was over 43 years ago.
Oh, wow.
We've been married for almost 37 years come May. And I got three children. My son, Christopher, he is a partner now over at CMB. And he runs the operations here at the construction company. My middle daughter, she works with me over at the laundromat, and she works part-time over here in the construction. And my youngest daughter, she also works at the laundromat, believe it or not. And her dance studio is attached to that building in our old area. So she's got 1,000 square feet, and she just started her dance studio.
Awesome.
Family of entrepreneurs, clearly.
Yeah. And my wife just came off from being, a stay-at-home mom, and she's joined the great fight here in the laundromat business, and she's loving the customers. She's wonderful.
So now you have this whole family of entrepreneurial-minded people. Were you always entrepreneurial as a kid and everything? And I know laundromats aren't your first business.
No, I'm the dumb one in my whole family. I come from a family of 8, and my dad was a CPA, and he was all on his own as an entrepreneur. I kind of followed in my dad's footsteps, So.
I know you joined the military back in 1984. What made you want to join the military? Was that your dream, or?
Yeah, as a kid, I grew up. My dad was a Marine. All his brothers, they all left. My dad was the only Marine. Everybody else was in the Army. When I joined the Army. I just had a wonderful time in the military. Spent 22 years. Oh, wow. I got out back in 2006. I had a wonderful career, wonderful team, and that really helped me. The Army actually got me into not only developing teamwork, but also leadership. And between those two things, I was driven back in the day I was working for people, and I just had that urge of, I could do more. I could do more better, and I looked at how things were handled, and thought if I had my own company one day, all of a sudden I went to my wife. I said, I want to start my own company. She's very supportive. She said, go ahead. So we did, So,
and your first company was construction, correct?
Construction,
C&B that's behind you?
No,
Okay.
I started out home remodeling. Yeah, Harrington's Construction, believe it or not. Yeah, it was. I bombed on it the first time, and I thought I better go back to college a little bit. And it's not that it's not. I had some people take advantage of me, and it threw me into a very, very financial crisis. But at the end of the day, it was a great learning curve because it forced me to go back to work, learn, go back to college, learn, and understand business. That's what I didn't understand.
There's nothing better than free. Ever heard that before? Well, it's not true. You know what your laundromat customers like even better than free? It's fast. That's right. They want to save time more than they want to save money in most cases. They want to get in and out of your laundromat as fast as possible, and they'll pay more for that experience. We're proof of that here in Cincinnati. That's why we added HM Company drain troughs into our newest store in Cincinnati. While they may never know why, your customers will love that your washers all drain better and faster than with old school drain pipes. As if that wasn't enough, every HM drain trough is made in the USA, so they ship in only a few weeks and everyone is custom made just for you and your project. If you want to provide your customers with a top of the industry experience in your store, then contact your distributor to order your HM Company drain trough today or visit draintroughs.com.
But after that, when I started up the company again, I had a good partner. He said, "Hey, let's try to do this." It was called a company called 3 Dimension originally. He wanted to be bought out. We bought out, and then my son grew up, and then he said, "Hey, Dad, I want to start something for us." So C&B came alive back in 2005. Yeah.
2005. Okay. And do you still do primarily residential? Do you do commercial, both?
All commercial. We specialize in self-storage, laundromats. I was doing car washes for a while, and then any real commercial properties, so strip malls, that type of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know that I totally got that. That's why this is fantastic that we get to do this. So did you build laundromats for other people before you owned a laundromat?
Oh, yes. You
did? Interesting.
4 other developers, yeah. And then I got in it by mistake, believe it or not. I had a guy call me. He bought a strip mall and then said, "Hey, could you? I want to build a laundromat." So I did some research, and I actually ran into my architect who actually did a few laundromats. He said, "Yeah, those are easy, of course, right?" It's like any other business. You really just have to understand, that it's easy to draw them, but it's not. You need to know how to operate them to understand the flow of what a customer is going to need and the flow of what the team's going to need. So
wow.
And that took a while to learn, and so that I learned that by mistake. I had a customer who was building a laundromat and a self-storage together, and he ran out of money during the first recession. So that's where I came into my first laundromat, because I became an investor because he couldn't pay me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sweat equity, huh? Different type of sweat equity.
Yeah. It paid off in the long run.
Good.
Was selling everything off, and I got myself involved in another one with him. And then he bought me out, and I was very, very pleased. And then I opened up one with another partner a few years back, and we ended up selling out to a group out here in Chicago, out in Rockford. And so I took all that money, and during COVID, and I plopped it into my car wash that got closed down through the health department, and I converted that to a laundromat. Yeah, which is now.
So the laundromat you have now, we used to be a car wash, and you bought that, closed it down, and built a laundromat.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. What was that process like for you? That sounds easy.
Why would the health department close down a car wash?
Yeah, that's a great
question. Well, what happened was we're full service car wash. So we had to take possession of all the vehicles.
Oh,
And
so like
inside
your
there, we
employees
also,
got in them and drove them through? Is that the?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And we were 3 cheers back from the road, even though we're on a main road. And so we were getting beat up already by the express washes out there.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
So no bank was going to loan me any money to update the equipment, that type of stuff. And during COVID, nobody was getting any real loans. So
Mm.
if it wasn't for that sale of that one laundromat at the time, I probably would have. My car wash was closed down. I probably would have lost the car wash altogether. So it was a good. It was a good. I got blessed by God for sure. I very much believe that He was watching over me and got that sale going so that I can convert this, which was a fantastic thing for myself. Yeah.
Awesome. So now we get into the nuts and bolts of you have a laundromat, but do I understand correctly? No partners, you and your wife?
Just me. Yeah.
100%. Tell us about that and tell us about turning a car wash into a laundromat.
Well, actually, it's you'd be surprised. I went to the city of Elgin and I said I'd like to convert the car wash into a laundromat. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to have to go through and you're going to have to deal with the sanitary and this and that." I said, "What are you talking about?
Why?
What's the difference between converting a thing that washes cars to now washing clothes?" So when we got past that, we got our permits within 3 months. I converted the car wash in about 10 weeks into the laundromat.
Wow.
Yeah. I got a loan through Alliance. I got all Hitch equipment in here.
Okay.
And it was fantastic. And then I used the equity. I owned the car wash for 8 years. I used that equity there. And then I got my other loan through Northwest Bank of Rockford, who has been my financial partner for many years. So, yeah.
That 10, I'm a little stunned. I apologize. I'm rarely speechless, Brian. 10 weeks is crazy.
Yeah, I would think there would be a lot of things walls you would have to move
so
and
when
everything.
Just to clarify for the audience, when you say 10 weeks, is that, that's not planning and everything, right? There's no.
No, we went 3 months through the drawing and everything we did in house. Got that done, and then I had my architect stamp it off with some. He helped me do some revisions, and then after that, it was a almost 3 months process with the village. But I had the car wash. I was already scrapping out the car wash because I knew it wasn't going to ever stay. And then, so I had bare bones. And then as soon as I got my permit, we immediately started construction. We were working 15 to 17-hour days on that. We converted it right away. I had it up and running on January 18th of 2000. Yeah, 2021. I'm sorry.
Okay.
2 years now. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So the planning process you did in house, but that was about a 3-month process involving all your fiasco with the city and everything else, and then you were at the same time you were doing demo, which obviously you don't need a permit to do demo, so you're allowed to do those things, and then you quote unquote broke ground with kind of a somewhat clean slate, and that's when you guys got in there and were working long days, and were able to
some
actually,
butt.
yeah.
I got to really say that. Knowledge wise, it because of the fact of the background that I was able to do for others, I was able just to put it right into my business and really benefit from it, so it was really a good thing at the time.
You're referring to the experience you had in building laundromats for other people?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
At this point, how many laundromats have you built or remodeled or whatever, would you say?
We got about a 13 facility.
Wow. Okay.
And within the last since 2005 to now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with all of that experience, I feel like you are going to be an awesome source of advice for people out there that are looking to build or remodel a laundromat. First off, let's just get to build versus the retool. What can you, from your experience, what can you tell people as far as starting from scratch, like taking something that wasn't a laundromat before, or even blank ground, whatever, empty ground versus retooling an existing laundromat. Do you have recommendations? Can you give anybody advice as far as what extra costs they're going to incur by starting with something that isn't a laundromat versus starting with something that is already an existing laundromat?
Sure. Well, retooling, the downsides to the retooling is everybody knows who has done it. You have to actually you're disrupting your customers, and you don't want to shut down completely if you don't have to, and to kind of keep your business going. But in a lot of cases, if you only have a 2,500 square foot retail center space, it's better just to shut down, rebuild it, and open up right away. And find that contractors out there that you really have to find a contractor that's motivated and knows the P's and Q's of the plumbing, the electrical, and understands the real need of the owners. When you're in a retail space, I'll talk about that first. It's harder because of the fact that what you're improving the owner's space. So all that money that you're investing in that space is really the benefit of that landowner or that who owns that mall, right? If you could shut down, great. If you could do a lot of the work at night and pay a little extra to the contractors, but you can keep an areas open during the day. That people do understand if you're trying to improve the community, that they'll do that. So. But from ground up, like you're suggesting, typically that's owners, a person who finds a piece of property, wants to build up their own independent laundromat from ground up. My advice is you need to really do the research up front, go to the city, find out if there's monies available for improving the land. You could be in an opportunity zone where they'll give you some tax credits. You could be in an enterprise zone, which they'll give you money towards, or you could be in a TIF zone where they'll help with the infrastructure, which is really good for people. If you're not qualified in any of those, you'll be looking at some pretty hefty costs to tap into the sewer and water. You'll have to deal with the sanitary sewer district. And then, of course, every city loves laundromats because of the fact that, as you know, the water bill is always, great income for a city, because we're paying those bills, right? Yep. And so the city is pretty much on board if you're going to do that. But parking is another factor. You may not have, but 2 or 3 customers at a shot in the very beginning. But like right now, my parking lot is full, and I have 30 spots, and during the weekend, my site is constantly in a big rotation. There's not I don't have a lot of standing around wait time, for a lot of people. So I'm lucky there. But if I had smaller equipment, I'd be in trouble.
So what you're describing there is something I always say, I think it's kind of a made up word, but I call it throughput. Getting people in, getting them over, and getting them out with a great experience while we're there, but as quickly as possible. What are some things that you learned through building 13 laundromats? And it sounds like you did probably everything right, or most things right, on this facility. How big is this facility? And walk me through kind of the store, or walk us through the store, if you will. Payment systems, you talked about Hipsch equipment, width of the aisles, folding tables, all the things that go in, incorporate. I know you have Ozone in there. What made you do what you did in the facility? And then I'm going to have a million more questions back to the construction in a minute.
That was great. So, so what I did is I took the tunnel of the car wash, roughly 6,000 feet. We have there's 4,500 square feet of where the tunnel was. And then I have an area for the drop off, like a Wi-Fi cafe, kids zone, where people were sitting while they're waiting for the cars. I had that area. So we have a total of about 6,200 square feet.
Okay. And this is a standalone building. Is that right?
Standalone building. And then I have where the detail center was. That's another 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. That's for future expansion for storage, really, for us as we expand, like our 4th shift. Well, right now, that's the dance studio for my daughter.
Okay.
I went with a Hipsch equipment, like I said. I do have Fast Card.
Okay.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
So is your payment system Laundry Card only, or is it, you mentioned Fast Card, so you take credit, debit cards at the machine?
Yes, we do the Fast Card. Yeah,
Okay.
we do everything at each machine, correct. And then we have curbside laundry for
Okay.
our wash home. Yeah, so our
Okay.
POS system is through curbside. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I know you were somewhat, I don't want to say hindered, but you had an existing building in place. So you're working
Yeah.
within those parameters to a certain extent. Tell me about like the width of your aisles and the thought process. Do you have machines, front, 60-pound machines facing each other? What was the thought process of the depth of that aisle opposed, with that for proper throughput and things like that?
Yeah, you're going to be blown away. I don't have I don't have no washers facing each other anywhere.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I have. So what I did is I took the exit of the tunnel where all the customers would be able to see. I made that a display, and I put multiple machines there. So I did 2 40s, 2 60s, and 2 80-pound machines right in the very front.
Mhm.
And behind that bulkhead,
Okay.
I put all 20s behind there. I got 20-pounders right behind that bulkhead. So then I have along the length of the tunnel, I have on one side where you would be able to watch your car being washed.
Mhm.
I have all the machines, I have washers on that whole side. Those aisles are 7 feet wide, and they also vary in all different sizes. So I have 20-pounders, 80-pounders, 60s, and 40s. And then I have one additional bulkhead towards the rear, and I have 40s, 60s, and 80s on one side, and then I have 4 extra 80-pounders on the additional side. And then you hit the nail on the head. I'm a big proponent of ozone.
Mhm.
Love it.
Me too. Definitely.
So I ended up going with ArtiClean.
Okay.
ArtiClean's got that big holding tank and everything, and we were able to get it in the back. And I got everything married right with all the boilers. Works out well. It's fantastic. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't. Regardless of the company, we use SaniWash, obviously, but I don't know anyone that has put ozone in their store, regardless of the provider, that isn't ecstatic with it.
Mhm.
And the people that are over the moon ecstatic with it are the people that understand putting it in isn't the beginning.
Right.
That's just that's the starting gate. It's not the end, is what I should say. When you market it and when you learn how to promote it. And I noticed, like, even your website, I think I saw it on your website, green energy and all this, like, like you're clearly promoting and as opposed to just saying, we have ozone, and customers go, I don't care. I don't even know what that is.
What is that?
Like, when you market it and you're very intentional, I'm guessing you do this in store too.
We do.
Tell us about that real quick. What's your putting it in is the beginning of the process, not the end. What have you learned through promoting and marketing it and explaining it to
How do you educate your customers to know how great it is?
We have a couple standing signs that explain ozone. But you know what the big thing is? Our team members, educating our team members what it is, and then the team members explaining it to a customer.
Mhm.
You only need a quarter cup to go in a 20-pound machine. We have ozone that's going to take care of all your issues with these high efficiency washers, or you throw 1 pot in versus 2 pots.
Mhm.
Customers come in there and they're like, oh my gosh, and then they'll say, I don't believe it. You got to see a bunch of soaps. I always tell them, I'll do a free wash, but let's do it my way. Show you first. We'll throw 1 pot in. If you don't start seeing some soap suds and all the good stuff, then I'll give you your free wash.
Mhm.
And it works every time.
Yeah.
And
So you had a lot of experience constructing laundromats before, obviously, you were making yours. So you had a lot of learning experiences of what to do, what not to do. Can you speak to some of what you would call maybe the mistakes that laundromat owners make when designing a laundromat that you made sure not to implement in yours?
yeah, that's a real good question, because when I first started building them, I had no idea other than I'm putting in machines and I have to put power water to them, and that's basically it. As I started understanding when the first one came in, I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit. And even though I was just an investor, I wasn't really in operations. I got involved in the operations. So if someone new is coming to the industry, they really need to go look and maybe like take one of your classes, for example, because as an operator, when you're designing, an architect is designing to space. They're not designing to an operator's abilities.
Great point, man.
And that's important. So the biggest downfall, as I've seen, is real tight quarters. You don't have anywhere where when you open the door and you have only a couple feet behind you. People got big baskets trying to get past. I go now and I'll look at some of these drawings that come up. Well, we had a few of them that came up on the Laundromat Millionaire website.
The Facebook group.
Oh no, don't do that. That's not the way to do it. Or, and then the other thing is give a variety of washers. It's one thing to jam packed in a bunch of small ones, thinking you're going to make a ton of money, but it's all about the timing too. It's time management for a customer. They don't want to be there 2 hours. They want to be in and out as fast as they can. And the machines that we have it to where 36 minutes is total for all the washes basically, and then if you do half-hour dry, so you're really only going to be at our facility no more than really an hour and a half if you're folding on site, and give good space for folding. Give good space for folding. I have a whole wall of just dryers. They're all 45-pound dryers, and then I have 30 workstations, and they're shielded between each workstation. During COVID, for the health department, I wanted to appease them at the time, but you don't get cross-contamination, and all those socks that roll into someone else's stuff, right? Or shirts, or people can control their space. And believe it or not, I don't have one person ever complain about, hey, take these shields off. I don't like them.
So you did it for COVID, and customers actually like them.
They love it, yeah. And it's another marketing tool because we've slapped 2 stickers on it and said, everything clean laundry services on it, So
So by workstation, you're referring to a folding table area?
Yeah, typical folding table. And it's all along right in front of the dryers.
Okay.
All along the back of the bulkhead.
30.
Right
30.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And
30 folding tables.
What size are those?
They're just the standard
like
size.
4 feet long.
Yeah, 4 by with the double shelf on top of it. Yeah.
Okay, so just like a Highmark folding table kind of thing. Okay, gotcha.
Nice. Okay, so your big advice is watch the space. Make sure you don't put too many machines where you don't have enough room for aisles and folding. And another one we always hit is seating. Sometimes there's no room for seating. Right. Not everybody wants to just leave their laundry. They want to stay there.
Right.
So I'm curious, with your facility, you already had the building, you already had the square footage, it was what it was. And even with our new project, that's what the building we bought, it's a 2-acre property with a 9,000 square foot building. So you kind of work within the parameters of that. If someone weren't in that situation and they were leasing space, but they could lease anywhere from 2,000 to 20,000 square feet, or maybe they're building a building, so it's just a piece of dirt, and they could build a 10,000 square foot building or a 5,000. What as a construction expert, any idea how to right size that facility for the location, demographics? I mean, you've done this plenty of times and walked other professionals through the process. Any golden nuggets, as I call them?
And also, I'd like to add, based on the size, how many parking spaces? Because I know parking is important too.
Great point.
So do you have a formula there for how big the parking should be relative to the size of your store as well? So how big should the store be, and how much parking?
Okay, the store, you need to find a decent location, about 1 acre of area, okay?
Yeah.
And then what you want is about 30 spots. Now, out of that 30, 2 of them or 3 of them will be required for handicap. So people need to realize that. I would always have a front and a rear exit, or a front and a side exit available, which you'll have to put an ADA in both locations, correct? But the size that I would say between 5 to 7,000 feet, it would be good.
Square feet
on 1 acre. That would give you enough area for good storage. Because if you're going into the pickup and delivery, wash, dry, fold, drop offs, you need storage. And as we all know, we're always fighting with those customers from the drop-offs. Come get your clothes. Come get your clothes. So But yeah, I mean, if you have to cut that down and you're in a smaller community, then you can. I built one in Rockford. It was 5,500 square feet, and it was on a half acre lot, and we only had 21 parking spots. So
you say 5,500 square feet?
It was 5,500 square feet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 21 spots.
And 21 spots.
Which is still a good size laundromat and a decent amount of parking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. But it's now I'm building my self-storage right next to it because I owned it and I sold it. So now that we share kind of an entry, people I know are going to be parking over at the self-storage area, or at least try to. It's going to be one of those areas. But it's constantly busy. I see it and I'm like, boy, I mean, it's packed all the time.
So any advice on a formula? Like, let's say someone's building a 2,000 square foot laundromat. Is there like a formula a construction person or an architect or something would use for, okay, instead of building a 5, 6, 7,000 square foot with, did you say 30 parking spaces? Maybe we're doing a 2,000 square foot, in a smaller town, not the size of Chicagoland and things like that. How do they know? I guess what my question is whether you're acquiring an existing one or you're building a new one. How do you know if you have enough parking, even for a smaller facility?
Each town is going to be different. You're going to have to go to your local municipality on that, and they're going to tell you what their requirement's going to be.
So they have a formula, and they're going to say you have to meet this.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And they're going to tell you how many handicap ADA spaces will be required of you. So I can go in one town and I can go to the next town over. That's going to be totally different.
So,
yeah, their ordinances are different.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I have a question too, just based on your experience. I know you've had different partnerships over the years, and you've learned some things from some that went well, some that did not go so well. What advice can you give people who are maybe looking at having partners or investors in their laundromat? Anything in that realm?
Yeah, well, when you're a partner, you give up a lot of your creativity and control because you have to share, you compromise with the partner because they have to have say too. I mean, I may like the color blue and they may like the color, green, and where's that compromise come from? Right. So, you have to kind of pick your battles when you're working with a partner. And it depends on what the type of partnership that you're developing. Is it, if you're doing an LLC and you are the managing partner, well, then you're the expert. Then you get to basically do that, and you have a financial partner. You're obligated to just pay, what the agreement's going to be, right?
Okay.
My biggest thing is I would rather have an investor. With investors, you could you have full control. You pay them their dividend. Give yourself enough time to build your business up to pay the dividend, and then but they always get paid first. Make sure that they're paid first, they're satisfied, and always have an option for to buy out them completely. So if you have a partnership, it can rally into basically a horror story on you, and it turns into basically a divorce, really, because then it's a lot of legalities and a lot of legal things you have to do, and they may say, well, you can't keep the name, or you can't do this, and you want something that you can take and move forward with, So
when you say like you're referring to like an exit strategy of make sure there's a buyout in there.
Yeah.
How do you maybe it's a little too in the weeds, but I'm curious, how do you formulate something like that? Is it based on percentage of net operating income? Like it's obviously put into the operating agreement, but any advice there? Because I'm guessing you've done different versions of partnerships and different types of buyouts. I mean, if you're foreseeing the future, hypothetically, how do you know what the business is going to be worth? Or is it just you take a valuation of 5x net NOI and they have a 25% market share, so they get 25% of that? Or how does that? Any advice there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I do, Dave, is I build a pro forma, and I'll do a 3 or 4 year projection. And then based off the 4-year projection, I'll say, I want to buy you out on my 4-year projection. Now, if you're doing extremely well, and let's just say you hit those numbers at 2 years, you want to be able to buy out you want to buy it out at your valuation of what you projected with your investor.
Okay.
So if you hit it in 2 years, that's the time that you can go maybe refi and pay your investor off, because they're going to love you. They're going to say, I want to invest in your next one, because if they get their money back and they're getting their profits back, they're going to be big friends of yours because you did it in a lot earlier time.
So they're going to get dividends for 2 years. And if you reach that 4-year pro forma in 2 years, and then you're going to buy them out at the value of the business at that time, right, with their equity. So they're getting dividends for 2 years, and then their equity percentage, and they're getting their money back, which they can then reallocate to the next project. Did I understand that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think when you're looking at you have to build a pro forma anyway. The bank will require it. A lot of people don't realize how important that is, because when I was building my pro forma on the third one I owned with a partner, it was not being watched as this is how we have to operate, And I took my eyes off that project because I was building another project for the two of us in storage somewhere else. So it got to a point to where the eyes got off of the prize, and we're out spending what we were actually profiting, and that became a problem because that became a lot of money out of pocket, and we never achieved the goal. But now when we sold it, and you have the group that came in, they had money, they had deep pockets, they were able to put the things together, and all of a sudden now this thing is screaming, cash. It's cash flowing very well, and so you have to have people that are wanting to come in, that are investing in time, because you're going to need time to make it happen. But if you outperform yourself, have it at a point to where you can buy them out for what you promised them, what you're going to get, and have them come in on the next deal. Because if you're doing that well, you're ready for your next deal, right? So
I think a lot of people, when they enter, and maybe this is just my brain, but I think when a lot of people enter partnerships, they don't think about the exit strategy. Heck, a lot of businesses people enter into and don't think about an exit strategy, especially something as soon as 2 to 4 years in. Yeah. But the way that you've just laid that out I always say, I want to put myself in my partner's shoes. And why would they want to do this? Well, you just gave me a pretty good example of why somebody would want to do something like that and would actually be excited to be bought out. In theory, you'd think, well, if I'm a private investor or a silent partner and it is screaming cash, and that means I'm getting, it's throwing off cash, why would I want out? Right? Well, you're going to get your equity and then you're going to redeploy. So everything you're mentioning is obviously from the perspective of an operating partner too. Yeah, right. So that's assuming you want to buy out your partners.
Yeah, I think it's important that we're creative people, and obviously you've built your little empire, which is very creative, on how, but it's step by step.
Yeah,
and having an investor come in and take that from you is a little difficult pill to swallow, because you really just need that equity, to make things happen. And if you're making a promise to them and delivering on your promise, they should be very happy, because if you're doing that well, you're going to always be a good resource for them to invest in, and they're always going to make money.
Yeah.
So I have not yet disappointed one of my investors in regards to that. It's taken a little longer on a couple things, but when we do cash out, it seems to always benefit everybody, and it's always at the right time too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Another question I had, I know you've had some mixed experiences dealing with banks and getting financing and stuff like that, as we have too over the years. It definitely gets easier the longer you're in business. But do you have any advice for people getting into this industry as far as gaining financing from banks or from other organizations?
Yeah, it's very frustrating, isn't it, Carla?
But it's amazing though. Once you get to a certain point, it's you go from begging them to lend you money to them begging you to borrow money.
Yes,
right.
It's funny how it flips really quick. By the way,
and even having financial institutions kind of compete over for the best rate.
Right?
Yes.
So it's very difficult because. The biggest heart-wrenching thing, and again, something came from your book, which is exactly what I experienced, is being told, no, you don't have a good plan, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough capital to invest. We want to take your house, your kids, and the car with the dog, and there's certain compromises you just don't make, right? So. With my experience is that even the deals that you get from certain banks, I had one bank come up to me and my partner at the time and said, "Hey, here, this is it." And then I get the term sheet. I look at it, and it's like, since I had more of the capital power, they wanted everything out of my pocket, not out of his pocket, right? His couple little investments weren't even equitable to where they wanted a lot of my stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And boy, was he hurt. He was upset. He was like, why aren't you going to what? And it's like, I'm not going to put my net worth all in for something that I'm only getting 50% of.
Yeah.
So, but it came a point to where I got a good partner. And I had a bank that when we walked in, they were like, we will do everything in the world to try to give you the word yes, to make it happen. And I have a great banker. He's a good guy. And he has made things really happen for me. I'm going to mention his name is Craig Carlson from Northwest Bank of Rockford, good guy. And he has made a lot of things happen for our family and for our business. But now, like you just said, now you have other financial institutions that are saying, hey, you got a great idea, you got a good thing ready to roll with. We want to be on board. So my big thing is that I listen to certain financial institutions up front, and I'll give a real good piece of advice. Don't go and if you're going to go and buy a piece of property, don't put all the money in on the piece of property. Take the property, put in 30% of your own equity, hold on to the rest of that 70% of that equity, take a loan out on it, use that to go be able to finance that and roll that into the construction loan for your next part of the project. Because what I did is I put a lot of money out of my pocket, and then when it came, they said, well, you just don't have enough money. You don't have enough liquid money. And that hurt. That hurt because at the time, this was on a storage project. I'm trying to sign a loan for $10 million, and I couldn't do it because I put all the money in on the property. And the appraised value was just at the $10 million. Right? So they're not going to give that to you. They're going to have a thing called LTC or LTV, which is loan to cost or loan to value. And they'll only give you 70% loan to cost, loan to value. So, so at that point there, I would only been able to get a loan for $7 million. So if I would have had the cash, they looked at that as higher valuation, and I could have gotten something better. So that was just a bit of advice that I ran into.
Yeah, so, it's amazing how you move numbers around. Things change, and from the base, I could say I'm a pretty basic business owner. You're like, well, these are the same thing, but it's amazing. You just got to make the actuaries happy. I guess. I guess that's what we're doing.
Well, I seen you guys when we were at the Clean Show. You were doing a podcast with a gentleman, and he was a financial guy.
Chris Mihalik.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah. And so, have you guys done work with him before?
We have.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of work. Yeah, he's the founder and owner of Prime Capital. Awesome guy. Yeah, Chris is a fantastic guy. We've probably done.
We've done a few different things with him.
Five, 6, 7 different loans. Some of them very small early on when we were broke. Sure. Like, Chris, our water heater's out. We don't have 10 grand. I need 10 grand, and he gets you 15. Some of them were pretty small, but then some of them were like whole store projects.
But he's very relationship focused. Like, he got to know us and really believed in us, and he'll do everything he can when he believes in you and your project.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Well, and we found that, especially early on, dealing with some of the industry-specific lenders like Chris and like Eastern Funding and even Alliance for equipment and stuff like that, we had a lot more luck with them because they understood the business. Right. Where, in the beginning, Dave was going to banks and they're like, laundromat? What kind of business is that? I don't even understand your numbers. So we really found industry-specific, especially early on, was essential.
Yeah, because we were kind of selling a vision and a plan that the banks didn't really buy. They kind of thought I was full of it. And I, thought I knew what I was doing, but I was like, I don't know, maybe I am full of it. I'm not real sure myself here. This isn't helping my confidence. But then I went to industry-specific lenders that my distributor pointed me to. He had relationships with them. And he, when you start laying out a well-thought-out plan to somebody in the industry that's been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years like Chris, then it just either makes sense or they can poke a hole in it really quickly. Yeah. And the beauty of working with somebody like Chris at Prime Capital, and even Eastern is this way too, is if they poke a hole in it, that's not a no, that's a go fix your plan and come back with a better plan and we'll approve it. So they actually act in a lot of ways as sort of a mentor. I mean, they're not going to be on the phone with you for hours every day, but they'll poke holes in your plan. And some people take that as dejection or rejection. And I say, no, go back, fix your plan, come back. You're going to be, it's going to be a better investment for you. Sure. Because you finance through them. Or if you were to go to a bank that doesn't really know the industry, you might just get a yes or a no.
One thing I did find in regards to when you find a community bank, they're willing to work with you, but they're limited on the certain amount of money that they can loan you.
Sure.
And you're right. It's all about the business plan with new laundromat owners. If they're coming in blind and just hear this is just a cash cow business, that's fantastic. But how much research are you really doing to understand your cash cow business? I'll tell you, your first couple of years, it's not exciting. It's not. It's sweat. It's equity. It's a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. A lot of learning. And I learned something new pretty much every day. And I know you guys do too.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the lender needs to know that you understand what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Some people think that they can go ahead and have someone else write their business plan, present that to the bank, and they're going to get the loan. When the banker comes in, they can see right through you. If you didn't write that business plan, they'll see right through you and say, hey, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yep. That is, wow. Everybody pause, rewind, listen to what Brian just said again, because I'm gonna add a little Dave Men's flavor to this, Brian, if it's okay for a second. Sure. What I learned is I wrote my own business plan, but what I learned is when I went into, you read my book, these 20, 30 banks, whatever it was, and I actually felt like I did have a pretty good plan because I was working with a pretty good mentor, equipment distributor that had been in the business for a long time, and they were helping kind of mentor me. And so I actually had a pretty good plan. I just didn't have much money and no experience. When I went into them and I laid out the business plan, they just gave me a yes or no, but they didn't really ask any questions. They gave, and it was always a no. What I learned is when I started working with the right relationship or starting building right relationships with people like Chris and Alliance and things like that, they would ask me questions. And when they asked me questions, I had no problem selling my vision. So there's the nuts and bolts on paper, and then there's I call it storytelling. Yeah. And when you tell the story of how are you going to do this, you don't have any money. I told them I'll work 80 hours a week. That's how I'll do it. Well, and then, they either believe that or they don't believe that, but at least you have a plan. So my point was when I got somebody that actually cared and wanted to pause and was willing to take notice and listen to my story, then I had the opportunity to tell the story. And when I told the story of my vision of what I was doing and how I was going to do this, and I brought that together with the business plan, the nuts and bolts, the pro formas, the things you're talking about, then it was like, that's when I got people's attention. Right. And they were like, oh. But the other people they didn't even want to hear it. I was like, well, is there anyone come in and talk to you? We could sit down. No. Like the math didn't work, didn't make sense. They wouldn't want to give me a half hour of their time.
Right.
So, my point is you have to be working with a lender that's willing to listen. You can't talk to a brick wall, but at the same time, you also have to be able to tell your story.
Yeah.
Like this, you said it. That's just gold. You cannot have somebody else create a business plan for you. You walk in and hand it to them and say, that's going to tell the story. Yeah. No, that starts the process of telling the story, or maybe gets the door open to let you tell the story. If that makes sense. At least that's been our experience. I know you're working with bigger projects than some of ours.
So Dave earlier talked about, and when we were starting out with our first store, his mentor, Steve Millman at HM, was crucial to developing that business plan for, getting that first laundromat set up right the way it should be. I noticed when you were listing some of the things you do, you also listed that you're a consultant. Are you a consultant for people in the laundromat industry? Would you like to share about that?
We're a consultant in construction overall. We've done varieties of consulting. We do charge a fee for that. Obviously, but we're not a heavy fee hitter. What we do is if we do a consulting job and someone says, "Hey, we want you to build it," we'll give back that whole fee as part of the construction. So if someone paid $10,000, we did a feasibility study and we did a kind of conceptual design and did your entitlements. That's pretty reasonable fee structure, and said, hey, could you build the place for me? And then, could you also make a construction budget, that type of. So we consult on a variety of things.
So if our listeners do want to reach out to you, possibly for consulting services, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Sure. They can go www.cnbconstruction.com. Okay. Chris November Bravo, construction.com. Yeah. And then awesome. They can go on our page. It's got all of our information. They can call our office. We're happy to help anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then also, if they want to see your laundromats, what's the website for that?
Sure. Everything Clean Laundromat. It's www.everythingcleanlaundry.com. Okay. And we have a fantastic. I need to do a big shout out to our Dennis Diaz. Great guy, spinner group over there. After the conference, Wash Dry Fold conference out here, Spinner came out to our laundromat, and I really want you to follow back up with him. But he said it was probably one of the best laundromats you've seen in a long time, and
nice.
He's a great.
And he's seen a lot, so that's saying something.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dennis Diaz is a great human being. Good friend. Good. We consider him a friend, and I know I always tell people I make friends easily. So I meet you once or twice. We talk for a couple hours. You're my friend as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, he's a great guy. And Trey too. Yeah. I bother Trey all the time.
Yep. Yeah. Both great guys. Awesome. Well, listen, man. Thanks for taking. At this point, it's over an hour of your day. You could have been out consulting, making money. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, listen, man. Thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to share this episode with the industry, the construction experience, and everything else. I've seen your store. I've seen your not in person, but I've seen your website and your pictures of your store. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous store. And I know you're planning on building. I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag here, but you're planning on building a few more for yourself. Up there in the Chicago area.
3 under contract, I believe.
Yeah, we have 3 properties under contract, but and I was downtown Chicago looking at another one yesterday. So
nice.
It's
a shame. It's a shame there aren't more people there that you could serve. I mean, it's such a little town.
I know, right? You go one block, you got your captive audience right there. Right?
Absolutely. Well, next time I'm in Chicago, I'm going to have to make my way over to you.
Absolutely, you guys come on by. You're always welcome. Please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, for our audience back home, thank you for joining us today. My beautiful wife, Carla, our new friend, Brian. And by the way, his wife didn't even join us today, but she is a rock star in her own right. If you don't know them, you should know them because they're good people. They're part of the process of what we call elevating the industry. This is not something me and Carla are under this delusion that we are doing. We are doing this together as an industry, all of us laundromat owners, and yes, with our partners, with the distributors, with the manufacturers. We're all in this together. It's just a matter of whether you want to join us or not. So hopefully this episode gave you a few nuggets. We'll see y'all next time for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care, everyone.
Bye.